Radio. It is my pleasure, it's my honor. You guys are gonna love him just as much as we do. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chauncey Dandridge, everybody.
There's no intro music because I couldn't play it. So give it up for Tom Ragú. So this is our first venture into producing an event together, and he tagged me so many times on Facebook this week I felt like the fat kid in the playground. But he's really good at promoting things. So I was going to start this whole shebang with telling you guys that this is only my third time doing stand-up in my entire life. But I figured that would be tacky, so I decided against it. So growing up in New Jersey is kind of a weird thing. How many people here are from New Jersey? Okay. How many people are not from New Jersey? See, it wasn't so bad, right? You guys got here, you didn't get killed, you didn't have a passport. Like, I don't know how many years ago, or what actually happened that people have such a negative reputation with Jersey. I mean, you guys are all here. Some of you are from Jersey. Jersey made me. I mean, it's a great thing. So I grew up in Harrison, which is right near New York. I'm Italian, half Italian. My father was all Italian, and my mother was all Polish. So I will make you an offer that you wouldn't understand. I grew up. We had lots of food everywhere. We weren't the typical Italian family. We weren't related to the mafia or anything, even though we tried a couple times to figure out whether we were. But we just ate a lot and we gambled a lot. Actually, when the lottery numbers were drawn each night, it was like a family event. It was like everybody huddled in front of the television. And my grandmother had this uncanny ability to relate any 3-digit number to a relative's zip code or address, or she's like, that's Joey's address, the first 3 digits of his social security number, and it was like he moved to Florida like 20 years ago, so it was pretty crazy. We always had a lot of food around, and the crazy thing was that sometimes we had a lot of good food and we had a lot of not so good food for you. So some of the more in-demand sweets and desserts were kind of scattered through the house and all that. And sometimes we would it was kind of like an Olympic sport. Sometimes we would eat the desserts because we were afraid that if we didn't eat desserts, someone else would eat them. So we had to make sure that we eat them, and then the formative years. Growing up in Jersey has always been kind of a battle, because you always have to prove to people how cool you are. And it's usually some asshole that moves here from Ohio that wants to be a film major that you have to prove yourself to, and they think it's cool that they moved to New York, but they're all assholes. So the other thing about growing up in New Jersey is not only growing up being an Italian, but growing up being gay. And that's always an interesting thing. See, I really had no choice but to be gay, because not only did I have an Aunt Lulu, I had an uncle named Butch, who had a dog named Bear. I had 2 older relatives with the nicknames Tony Baloney and Honey Tony. And I also had my Uncle Sal, who we believe was gay. He's my great uncle, he's my father's uncle. He was survived by his best friend, Nick Donzello, who used to rake the leaves in his yard in just a Speedo and very leathery tan skin. He had the biggest and best Hummel and Yardro collection I've ever seen in my entire life. So I'm pretty sure the gay gene is pretty rampant in my family. And I had my cousin Brian propositioned me twice when I was younger. I don't know if I should be telling people that, but twice. His father supposedly had affairs with the homeless guy that lived down the street. So it was, there's a lot going on in my family that I wasn't really sure of. And you ask questions, you think you're the only gay person in the family, you think you're the only gay person in the universe, and then you grow up and you find out a little bit more than you expected, and you're kind of embarrassed. But the other way I found out that things were kind of a little off in the house was that, my brother I discovered porn through my middle brother. He had a little stash up in his closet, and amongst all the Playboys, which were kind of boring for me, except for the articles, right? Remember those articles in Playboy? That's what my dad said, actually, or my mom found them. But aside from the articles, every now and then I'd find a very hardcore smut magazine, and I was like, oh, that was very exciting. So I would sneak it into the bathroom, but before that, the way I would obviously take care of my business in the bathroom was I would sneak in an international mail catalog. How many people have done that? Wouldn't wear any of the clothes in the magazine, but yeah, you get the point. Either that, or I'd take a Rolling Stone magazine in there and hoping there was a picture of a hot rocker, or hopefully that there was an obsession, some kind of obsession ad on the back, because those are hot, right? See, my parents should have known that I was gay because my 5-year birthday cake had Wonder Woman on it.
Yay!
And the coolest part about that, or the creepiest part about that, is that I was like, all I ask is, I don't know how to do my kid voice, but all I ask is that you save me the piece with her hair, because the piece with her hair was all black icing, and not only was I a little homo, but I was a little demented, and I liked, like creepy things and all that. See, when all the kids in high school were decorating their lockers with pictures of like naked girls, and the girls were decorating them with like the hunk du jour and teen Tiger Beat or Teen Beat, I had pictures of Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and all that kind of stuff. So, I even when I was in high school, I was the editor of the Library Guild newsletter, which had creative writing. I actually got banned because the story that I wrote was a little too risque. So instead of I wasn't very good at sports, so I decided to be the king of the geeks, and I joined the computer club. I was starring roles in all 4 years of drama club, and I made sure that I shone great in that aspect. My shining moment, or almost shining moment, in Little League was when my dad was a big sports nut. My older brother was really good at sports. I was not good at sports. I despised them. So my shining moment, or what I thought was my shining moment, was when I hit the ball so hard, I finally didn't get struck out. I hit the ball so hard that it went over the center field, what do they call it, center fielder? Center fielder's head, and I was running around, and I was obviously a little on the chunky side because we were Italian and we ate all the time. So I was so out of breath by the time I got past second base, I kept running and running and got slower and slower and slower and slower. And they're like, go, go, go. And unfortunately, because I was basically in slow motion, I got tagged out at home. So right in front of my dad, who was the coach of the other team, and right in front of the entire town. So needless to say, growing up in Jersey and growing up fat, or growing up chubby from a chubby family, led to a lot of interesting memories that I'll probably never forget. But when I was, when we were all the kids on the block, one of the ways that I despised sports so much, I couldn't stand playing sports. I thought it was pointless. I thought there were so many other better things you could do. I was really creative and I was really demented, so I would talk them into me telling them ghost stories in the basement, and I would scare the shit out of them, and they wouldn't want to hang out with me for like a week, so I was able to not have to play sports for that whole week. But another thing I did, and I was very proud of myself, I said, guys, let's all read books together. And I accomplished that for about 45 minutes, and then they were all gone. They were back in the street playing two-touch. So, the coolest thing about living in Jersey is the PATH train. Growing up, and right after high school, actually while I was still in high school, we discovered the PATH train, and we would get on the PATH train. It was only $1 back then. I'm showing my age. Wow. Is that what I said? Wow. Okay, I'll remember you later. So, we would get up off at Christopher Street or sometimes 9th Street, and we were in a magical place. It was dirty, it was seedy, it was everything you wanted a place to be when you're just coming out of the closet. We would, walk up and down Christopher Street, cruising people, or what we thought we were doing, we were cruising people. Then we discovered my very first gay bar, which was Uncle Charlie's on Greenwich Avenue. And remember Uncle Charlie's? It was the coolest gay bar ever because it had almost like a conveyor belt of homosexuals walking around and around and around and around and around, and some of them get knocked off. Either they were they weren't they were a bad egg and they would fall off, or they ended up hooking up with someone else and they walked out of the bar and they started again. But I remember one of the most exciting moments of, I got very excited, I got very nervous. I wanted to hit on one of the bartenders because, I felt, I've been coming here for a while and he's really cute and blah, 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 so I'm gonna hit on him. So I said, I tried to think of the most creative thing possible. I was like 16, 17 years old or whatever. And I was like, hey, do you need to be really gorgeous to work here or what? And he looked at me and he said, no, you can get a job here too. So needless to say, I never ordered an amaretto sour for me. And the coolest part about it is that now, 20 years later, like Tom said, I work almost 5 nights a week. I produce shows, and I bartend at one of the most famous gay bars in the world, Stonewall. So fuck you, bartender. So I think one of the other things about growing up in New Jersey, you were very, very Catholic, and you were staring up at Jesus, the naked body, all the time. And the other thing, I became an altar boy, and the sad thing was that about 3 weeks later, I really, none of the priests touched me, and I didn't feel icky or anything. I didn't drink any of the wine. I wasn't forced to drink any of the wine, and the same thing happened with the Cub Scouts. I joined them, so I never got any action. I didn't understand it. So that's why I don't join clubs, and that's why I don't stay in clubs. But thank you very much, guys. Definitely come by tomorrow night. I'll be DJing here, and thank you for letting me do this. Okay? Bring back Tom Ragú.